Hello, I'm Father Norm Douglas, Executive Director of Heart to Heart Communications. Welcome to this edition of Spirit at Work, a program in which we interview people about their lives, what matters to them, what their core values are, and especially how they connect their spirituality with their daily work. Here with me is the co-founder of Heart to Heart. He's an attorney, and I like to call him Larry the Lawyer, Larry Villeman.
Hello. And I know you may think that a lawyer and a priest talking about spirituality in the workplace might be the beginning of a good joke. But years ago, Norm and I got together and explored the question, how do you practically connect faith, values, ethics with the work that you do, with everyday life? We'll be right back with our guest to explore that further.
Hello and welcome to this segment of Spirit at Work. Today our guest is Dr. Suzanne Allen, Vice President of Development at Akron Community Foundation. It's great to have you here, Suzanne.
Oh, thanks so much.
Want to jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your background, kind of in growing up, and did you start off in this kind of work? How have you evolved from when you were that young adult first to getting going?
This is actually my first foray outside of education. I grew up in South Georgia and was a teacher, a high school teacher, and I taught English to junior and senior high school students, and after you've tried to teach Julius Caesar to seniors in high school who really didn't want to learn Julius Caesar, you kind of think about other career options.
Oh, yes.
And I was working on my master's at the time, and I was able to get my master's in marketing and teach not only English but also teach marketing in a high school situation, which was wonderful. And from there I moved to a community college and taught marketing and management there and began work on my PhD at that point. I had a wonderful president who encouraged me to move out of the classroom and into administration. And I did that while working on my dissertation. And about that time, my husband and we were living in deep, dark South Georgia. So when my husband came home one day, and he had worked for a Knight Ridder paper in Georgia, and said that he was thinking about applying for a position in Akron, I had to go look up where Akron was. I had no idea. I thought it was near Iowa. He took the job with the Beacon Journal here, and about 9 months later, the kids and I moved up. Much to our surprise, there was snow, and the reason that there's so much rock salt in the grocery stores is not to make ice cream, which was my first inclination. I thought it was a really happy place because you made so much ice cream, but in fact it was for the debilitating snow.
Oh, yes.
But when we moved here, I was working for a consulting company that had helped us at West Georgia Tech in a capital campaign, and the company asked me to start another revenue stream for them, which was a strategic planning model, which was what I was doing my dissertation on. And so I traveled and worked with 26 different nonprofits, colleges, museums, hospitals, building a strategic plan in order to create a resource development model so that they could better raise money more efficiently in a shorter amount of time. And it was very successful, and I enjoyed it tremendously. And Kent State was one of my clients. And that sort of turned into a part-time job, and then it turned into a full-time job. And I was at Kent State for about 6 years as the Associate Vice President for University Relations and Marketing. And it was just fabulous. Carol Cartwright was a joy to work for. But when you worked for her, you worked all the time.
Yes.
And my children thought every other child spent their weekends at football games and basketball games and hockey games. And they kind of thought Kent State was their playground. Until they were getting ready for high school, and then they informed me in no uncertain terms that this was going to stop, that they wanted to spend more time with their friends and be involved in more things in junior high school and high school than they were. So we really took a look at our life and our lifestyle, and fortunately for me, Walsh University offered me a teaching position, and I was able to teach there for a little over 7 years. And during the time my kids were in high school and they started college, and it gave me a lot more time for them, and it really fulfilled that need I have to teach, and I had missed being in the classroom. So I was at Walsh, and after the last child went to college, my husband said, "Are you ever going to wear a suit again?" And it's like, I don't think so. Maybe not. But about that time, a friend of mine at the University of Akron asked me if I wanted to get back into development, which I had been very successful in before. And I was at the University of Akron as the director of major gifts when I received a call from Jody Bacon, who said, "You might want to think about coming to the foundation." Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, you know, when Jody asks you to do something, you kind of really think about it. Yeah. And it worked out beautifully. I loved the university. It was fabulous to be there, but to work outside of the educational arena is pretty exciting.
Well, that's
very
great.
Different.
You've had quite a journey here.
Quite a journey.
Yes.
How would you best sum up what the Akron Community Foundation does? I think folks might have a general idea, but how would you best summarize? What do you do anyway there?
We give people an opportunity to fulfill their philanthropic goals in a number of different ways. We're sort of a catalyst in the community, helping people understand what the needs are and then finding ways to help them solve it. The way I look at it is I have two audiences. I have a donor audience and a nonprofit audience. The nonprofits need help, the donors need help. And I mean, I'm still a teacher at heart, and I still help people understand what it is to be philanthropic and what it is to look for funds and to look for grants and to make the nonprofit stronger.
Yeah. You mentioned being a teacher at heart. What is that about you that's the teacher? I mean, the gifts you bring or the sense of call that you see yourself throughout your life in that position?
I love red pens. I really love red pens. I like to help people. In my Enneagram, I'm a nurturer. In my Myers-Briggs, I'm an ISTJ, and you know, I just want things a certain way, and I want them to work a certain way. And I like when people see the light bulb. It makes me feel good about what it is that I do. And whether that's a donor understanding what nonprofits' needs are, or whether it's a student understanding what the algorithm for a marketing problem is.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, maybe you've already answered this question, but we have a lady here in Akron now who is in the deep, dark South, as you say, and finds her way into Akron, Ohio, and you mentioned you're a teacher at heart. I just asked this question this morning of a group of leaders, so maybe it's fresh on my mind, and that's the reason you're being subjected to it. What is it about Suzanne Allen that plays out not only in where you are now, but kind of as a common thread throughout everything you've done? In education and leadership?
I guess it's one of the things that, coming from the family that I did and the extended family that we have in Georgia, it was always important to be gracious. And it was always important to be kind and thoughtful. In fact, on my tombstone, on my mother's tombstone, I will write, "Make nice and do the pretty." I mean, that was just the line that just be nice. And probably on my tombstone, the kids will write, "Well, she was nice." But it is a common thread, and it's important to treat people carefully and cautiously, and find something in them that's worth spending time with and worth listening to and worth being gracious towards.
You know, in terms of leadership, obviously that's an important attribute, but leaders would say, hey, sometimes you have to make tough decisions and sometimes you can't be so nice. How do you respond to that?
Well, you can, because the tough decisions are going to come from the metrics, and they're going to come from what your mission is. And if you're true to your mission, the tough decisions are decisions. I mean, whether they're tough or easy, you have a mission that you have to be true to, and whether it's a personal mission or whether it's the mission of an organization, you're on a path, and the people who can help you, you want to be with you, and the people who can't help you really need an opportunity to find another path that's better for them. And that's kind of how I look at decisions. And who am I helping in this decision, and who am I ultimately hurting? Because by not making a decision, sometimes you're hurting people. So it's more of where you want to go and who you want with you.
Yeah. Just want to follow up. Obviously, a lot of people, a lot of organizations have had to lay people off. People who are very gifted, very good in what they do. How do you do that in a nice way?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that if people know that I'm honest and that I'm trying to help them understand what the bigger picture is, sometimes you just can't help it. I mean, sometimes you just have to make the hard decisions that you're talking about. But I think you can do it in a way that makes them feel good about what they brought to the table thus far and what their future holds for you. You know, so many people to get discouraged, and we've had friends and relatives who've been laid off in this area, and they've all bounced back. You know, they've all either created a new life for themselves. My husband says if you don't recreate yourself every 10 years, you're going to get kind of stagnant. And given his career path and his recreation, I believe that. And sometimes it takes a catalyst like being laid off to really figure out what you're doing and what you want to do differently and how you want to approach the next phase. Because there's always a next phase. And it's not really what happens to us. It's how we deal with it that ultimately matters.
Thank you.
It's eternally optimistic, and that's, I'm sure, not a quality some people appreciate.
You know, there are a number of people in our community have been laid off, and you, of course, know better than a lot of us how difficult it is out there for people as you're trying to raise money. Question, in your observations and in being out and about in the community, what's the good news about this greater Akron area? What's going on out there that we need to hear that can inspire some hope in us?
I think that probably the first thing that comes to mind is collaboration. You know, we have over 1,400 nonprofits in Summit County. And you wouldn't think it, but everywhere you go, a new nonprofit is starting. And the leadership in our organization has really taken a role as a catalyst to bring some collaboration together. Whether it's with a pets organization or whether it's with financial literacy for women. A number of different examples exist where, you know, we've helped, and other organizations have as well, to bring people to the table so that they don't overlap their services, that they can bring their strengths to the table. But and that's the only way business, for-profit and nonprofit, are going to exist is collaboration and sort of a co-creation of mission.
Some good insights there for all of us to keep in mind. We're going to wrap up this particular segment and come back in a few moments to rejoin Dr. Suzanne Allen as she shares with us her life and work and spiritual journey. Welcome back to this segment of Spirit at Work with our guest, Dr. Suzanne Allen, Vice President of Development at Akron Community Foundation. In this segment, I'll ask our good attorney to start.
Suzanne, a bit of a follow-up to where we ended our last segment. Are you able to share, and to the extent you are able, a story or two through your work in the foundation that might speak to this community in the context of some good news, some hopeful...
Certainly. One of my passions is family philanthropy. My average donor is 60 plus. And what I really enjoy seeing is when a family comes together and involves their children and their grandchildren in making decisions about where they would like to be philanthropic and learning about the community and letting the kids be a part of this. And a fabulous example, sadly, we lost a wonderful community leader, Barb Matthews, a little over a year ago. And within weeks of her passing, her son and daughter, her daughter lives in Florida and her son lives in Illinois, came to see us and wanted to know what they could do to honor Barb, because she had been such a stalwart figure in their lives as well as in the community. And we had already received a number of memorial donations to Leadership Akron and to other organizations in her name. So we sat and talked about it for a little bit, and they decided they wanted to start a donor-advised fund, which means it's like a little private foundation, and the donors can spend the interest that's earned in these funds and give that money to nonprofits. And it's a wonderful scenario. So we helped them set that up. And all the while, Mark Matthews, her son, had his son at all the meetings. And this child is just precious. And he was very interested, 5 years old, very interested in what was happening because he missed his grandmother and wanted to be a part of helping her legacy grow. Well, it's called the Barb Matthews Ladybug Fund because Barb was such a collector of ladybugs. So her grandson, we're Facebook friends. Her grandson Facebooked me and said that it was his birthday, and would it be okay that instead of having birthday presents, could people just, instead of buying him a present, give him the money, and he would then give me the money to put in his grandmother's fund. Well, of course, I'm weeping. My staff's weeping. We're all just so touched by this young man's thoughtfulness. And I said, of course. Well, the next thing I know, I get a personal invitation to the birthday party. And if it had not been in Detroit on a weekend when there was an OU football game, I would have gone. But so, and you know, he sent us a couple of $100 that was so meaningful. And I think what a lot of people don't realize about the foundation is we're not for wealthy people alone. I mean, anybody with any means can do something so meaningful. But he is just one of my heroes, and we sent him a thank you and balloons and the whole bit to commemorate his unselfishness,
well, that's
particularly
great.
At his birthday.
And certainly exemplifies that wonderful spirit of Barb, his grandmother.
Exactly. You can tell where this child came from.
Yes, it starts in the family.
It does.
I wanted to ask, you said anybody can contribute. Let's say somebody now hears this story and says, well, you know, we can't contribute thousands of dollars, but maybe our kids learning to be good stewards, or maybe we could do something. What's the first step? How do they contact you? Who do they talk to? What are things they should be thinking about?
Well, you can contact me at any time at the foundation, and our website is www.akroncommunityfdn.org. So it's akroncommunityfund.org. And email me, call me. We just completed our Millennium Fund campaign, which is our campaign at the end of the year. We have a number of affiliate funds, which are funds with their own boards and their own grant-making capacity, and their own separate funds that they can do what they want to within the community. And one of those funds is the Millennium Fund, and it's a fund for children. And when John Dotson was the publisher of the Beacon, he and Jody Bacon started this idea that we would ask people to donate their last hour of pay for the year. And it would go into this fund, earn interest, and then the interest would be given to nonprofits who work with children in grassroots efforts. And the largest gift is usually about $2,000 from this fund, but that can make or break an organization that's doing something with kids. So, you know, we'll receive checks for $5, $500, and they're all special. And we send every one of them a thank you note and a tax acknowledgement too, because it's all tax deductible. But it's really fun to see, you know, people really take it seriously, and you know, they'll send you $5 or they'll send you more. And that's one way to get involved, is just to get involved with the affiliate funds. We have a women's endowment fund that works with the health and safety and financial security of women and girls in Summit County. A gay community endowment fund that works with the needs that population has in our community. A Medina community fund, a women's fund in Medina. So there are lots of ways to get involved with particular funds. Or our community fund has about $2 million a year generated in interest that it puts back into the community on an annual basis and for particular areas, and those are grant-driven types of funds.
Excellent work. With all these not-for-profit organizations in the greater Akron area, and they're all vying for contributions and funding, and it's difficult for many, and maybe I'm just trying to solicit some free advice for our own not-for-profit organization, but what advice can you give the community and them? You know, how are we going to sustain ourselves? How are these not-for-profits going to continue to exist, to do the good work that they do?
As I mentioned before, I think the key is collaboration. Collaboration in grant writing, collaboration in programs that are offered. But Akron's unique. I mean, we've got GAR, we've got Knight, we've got the Community Foundation, as well as a number of small private foundations and trusts that support our community extremely well. And I think when someone, and this is sort of the ISTJ talking, when someone has a mission and the mission is to sustain this organization, you've got to be really strategic about it. And you've got to look at who's my real audience, because one of the things that we forget as fundraisers is there's some people who will never give us money. So who's my customer, who's my prospective donor, and who's not? And be very strategic about that. And target the people who've shown an interest in what you're doing. And then, you can spread the funnel just a little bit to educate the people who might look like the people who give you money. So you're expanding your pipeline and you're moving people from a suspect to a prospect to a donor. And then once they're a donor, it's so much easier to keep donors than it is to get new ones. You really have to cultivate them, and you have to steward their efforts and keep them involved and integrated into what you do. And that's hard. I mean, now in sort of the communication whirlwind that we're in, are you tweeting? Are you Facebooking? Are you e-blasting? And also, are you putting hard copies in front of people so that they can really see what you're doing? Because people want to know.
Yeah. I want to ask you, this program is called Spirit at Work, that underlying spirituality. For you, how do you see that dimension of your life making a difference in you and in what you do and why you do it and how you do it?
Maria Shriver wrote a book years ago, and in it she talked about advice her mother gave her. And I really liked it because it made me sit up and think, well, that's brave. And her mother said, you must be, and she was talking to her daughter, you must be the best daughter, the best wife, the best sister, the best mother, the best volunteer, the best employee, the best, and the list went on. And she said, she was really shocked when her mother said this, but then her mother added the codicil, but you have to pick which one you're going to do that day and be the best that day and tell the others, today is not your day to be the best. So, I try to do that today may be the day I'm the best employee, and my children will just have to wait, and my dog will have to wait for his walk. Or today may be the day when I'm just going to be a really good wife, or today may be the day when I'm going to be vying for Mother of the Year. But to think that your life is balanced is a joke. It's just not, and it can't be. But you can work towards it, but you have to choose. What am I going to do really well today that I can be proud of, and not beat myself up over the fact that I just really wasn't good at anything today.
Well, I guess this whole subject of balance, when does it come together for you in being able to say no?
That's really hard. And I've threatened to have it tattooed across my forehead because I have a hard time with it. That was one of my New Year's resolutions, was to be more selfish with my private time and my personal time.
How's that working for you?
Not real well.
Yeah. Dr. Phil, thank you.
But I'm, thank you, Dr. Phil. Yeah. But I'm working on it. So we'll see. I am involved in a lot of organizations and volunteer a lot of my time. But, I don't have children at home anymore. I just have a dog. So I can give back more now than I have in the past. But I'd like to be a little bit more selfish. So.
What young people just coming up, starting a career, wanting to make a difference in the world, what guidance would you give them? What core values or just other instruction for life?
I would honestly tie them to a chair and force them to listen. Kids want to do great things, and they're capable of it. But they need to spend some time in self-reflection and spend some time listening to what other people have to say. And sometimes with the energy level that a lot of these kids coming out of college have, it's hard to get them to slow down and think determinately about what they're doing and what they're saying and the differences that they're making.
Well, thank you so much. You've given us a lot of wisdom here and certainly affirmed what a great community we do have. And the Akron Community Foundation does such good work. And we're certainly glad that you offer your gifts to it.
Well, thank you. This has been a pleasure.
You're welcome. And
Thanks,
join Larry and I for a closing segment in a moment. Welcome back to this closing segment of Spirit at Work. And Larry and I just take a moment to kind of reflect on our guest and what she said and how she struck us. And I have to say right away that what struck me about Suzanne, she's very charming. And I think that charm comes out of, she has a real sense of life, a real sense that she's making a contribution. As she said, that thread throughout her life, you know, and being a nurturer and a teacher. And I think what struck me at the end there was also, she said how important it is for young people, for all of us to listen, to go within, you know, that sense of interiority, look inside and see what are my gifts, where am I being led, what can I contribute, and then how to offer that.
You know, in spiritual circles, they often talk about a flow of grace being self-awareness and self-communication. How am I communicating myself? And then self-donation. You know, and maybe there is need for us to be a little more reflective, you know, maybe to sit down and maybe listen to that inner voice. You know, and how do I communicate myself? As Suzanne said, you know, the question may be, am I my best self today? You know, and just be more present to the moment, you know, so that I can better self-donate. And that necessarily doesn't have to be a donation in the context of giving my money to Suzanne's group or any other group. It may be a contribution of my time, you know, my talent, you know, and the whole focus on the best. DeWitt Wolf once said, maybe the challenge isn't to be the best in the world. The challenge is to be our best for the world. In that way, contributing our best self.
Thanks, Larry. And that just about wraps us up. And maybe it's a reminder for each of us to take a deeper look. How can I be my best for the world today?